colour over the eye, highlight the eye. I'm just bringing that eye down a little bit. It was a little high, and just see how I'm brushing down. The eye socket's just about disappeared, but it's down about the right level it should be. So this is what I'm saying about adjustment. Just because you've got a shape there, or you've got somewhere which is not correct, you can make changes, you make adjustments. That's what painting's all about. It's making adjustments until you get what you want. I'm just bringing that side in. Of course later on I'll darken in those, even though the dog has its eyes closed, there is a dark area where the eyes are. I'm just putting a little bit more on the tip of the nose there. I'm working my way around the painting, or the subject, or both really, just widening the nose. Got a beautiful wide nose. Turning the brush on its edge, just coming down that side again. And very shortly I'll suggest the inner part of the nostril. Just doing the outside of the nose. See how I still tilt the brush to follow the form. Just playing around with the shape. Getting to a point where I'm a little bit more comfortable with it. Excuse me. Putting a few little highlight streaks in that dark fur. Still working around the whole area. And your brush strokes can vary in pressure. I think I mentioned it before. If I didn't, I'll mention it again. You don't have to use a heavy hand or a light hand. It's both. Sometimes you put the paint on with more pressure where you require it, and other times where it might be just a gentle highlight, something light, and you can have the brush full of paint and it's just a very gentle light touch. Here comes the bridge of the nose now. See the same colours? This is a very minimalist palette I'm using, a very small amount of colour or paint on the palette. You don't need a lot. And I always say to people, try to mix your colours at all times. If you go and you buy 40 or 50 different colours in tubes, you're not going to use them. You'll end up coming down to your basic blues, reds and yellows. You will use burnt umber, you will use burnt sienna, which is a more reddish brown than this one. Your blues will probably be ultramarine blue, which is a standard. You see how my brush strokes are just gently bringing the form down where the fur follows down the shape of the face, and I didn't use any pressure there. It was very light. It was just a very gentle slide over the surface. I'm doing the same thing there. You can see how my brush strokes change direction, feeling the form, just softening things up a little bit. And of course I've gone over the eye sockets a little bit. I'll re-establish them. There's no problem there. And I'm working my way around beautifully. The whole thing's coming together nicely. It's in its very basic stage, I would say. It needs to be fine-tuned a little bit, but you shouldn't rush to finish. Take your time and enjoy it. If you feel a little tired, or you want to stop, have a break. The very first moment you feel a little bit overwhelmed by it at all, stop and walk away. Go and have a coffee or whatever, and go for a walk and come back to it. It's not going anywhere. And then a painting doesn't have to be done in one sitting. That's the way I paint. I like to generally, not always, but generally I like to start and finish in one go. I feel that the painting, this is the way I paint, but you don't have to. You can start and come back days or weeks later and do a bit more. It doesn't have to finish straight away. It's like a book. You can pick it up and put it down whenever you want to. And that's the same as painting. And when the painting dries underneath, you put wet paint on top. Once again, that doesn't matter. The most important thing is that you enjoy what you're doing. It'll show in your work. that's for sure. I've come back to the fan brush now. I've changed brushes, and obviously I'm going to use the fan brush for a little bit more of the detail work. I'm going to bring in some darks and some lights and follow the form a little bit. And there's that little bit of muzzle down there which will work into the shape. It's one of the last bits of yellow ochre still showing, and it's obviously it's about time it came into the painting a bit more. Now I've got some white on the fan brush and I've tilted on its side. The brush is well loaded with white too, so I'm not going to press very hard. And there's a little marking coming down from the forehead down between the eyes down to the through the ridge of the nose. And just bringing the colour down the side of the nose now, and around under the side of the end there, and I'll go out to the jowl, I suppose it is, the upper lip. Once again, I'm using the flat of the brush, following the form. Follow the form. And use all of the brush. Every part of the brush can be used to do that. You can, as I've always said, tilt the brush, follow the direction. Bringing that down. Part of that light white will change and pick up the local colour and won't be quite so pristine, and that's what I want. Notice I'm using my finger there. Don't discount your fingers. Always use what works. If you want to smudge a bit of colour together, use your finger. Put paint on with your fingers if you want to. Everything's fine if it works. Just coming down the bridge of the nose there, use the flat of the brush, slowly developing that part of the face. Touching very lightly. It's sort of a feathery approach with the fan brush. I use the fan brush a lot for many things. It's such a versatile brush. They come in different sizes, right up to quite large ones. I usually stick with just the same size, and it's a, either a 2 or a 4, and I find it does pretty much everything that I need to do. It's a bristle, by the way. You can get them in sable, but it's usually portrait artists that use the sable ones. It's for softening, blending skin tones and things like that. The fan brush can be used for, especially in landscape, it can be used for foliage, grasses, all that sort of thing. In this case, we're using it to show fur. It's good for that too. Coming around the inner side of the cheek area there, and under the eye and above the eye. And I'm considering with the lights, there's a little ridge that goes up on the top of the head there, and it's where the bone lifts the fur up and catches the light, and that's what I'm looking at now. And also the bottom of the eyelid down the cheek. You can see when I'm picking out form, I'm finding my way around the form. And this time I'm doing the opposite. I said earlier, if you take care of the darks, the lights will look after themselves. Well, in this case, now I'm doing the lights and the darks are looking after themselves. So it's the same but opposite. Now there's the inner part of the ear, or the side of the head. Just defining that, I'll just come over here and I'll just run some highlight down the ear. So I've gotten to the stage now where I can bring in some high